Hi guys, so this is my first video on polycystic ovarian syndrome or PCOS, and basically polycystic ovarian syndrome is a hormonal imbalance. So it is characterized by the ovaries producing more androgens than it is supposed to, and usually to make this diagnosis doctors would order both an ultrasound and a blood test. The ultrasound is to test for the fluid filled sacs that usually surround the ovaries, and the blood test is to determine the androgen levels. So, I know a lot of people have been struggling with diets and trying to conceive and get regular periods and things like that. And it is hard. I know this firsthand. Losing weight is hard. It's not as easy as they like to make it seem. Finding a diet to suit you is very, very difficult. Um, but a few key points that I want to point out to you. When it comes to diet, especially and exercise. Each person is different. So what would work for me may not necessarily work for you. Metformin works for some people. I personally cannot take metformin. It makes me sick and I hate it and I refuse to do it. So that's my personal choice. Some people can't use Provera, some people use Provera, some people opt for birth control, and I've been there, done that with a lot of meds. So now I am trying the holistic approach. I'm just moving a sheet of paper. Yeah. Um, and I have opted to go gluten free and dairy free, and it is really hard, but what works for me may not necessarily work for you. So some people can tolerate gluten to an extent. Some people can tolerate dairy to an extent. Some people use soy, and there's a lot of skepticism surrounding soy because it contains phytoestrogen, which is basically a plant-like substance that mimics estrogen. So for some women, it could actually prove to be, well, it would may not have as much benefits, and for some women it's quite beneficial. And the key is really and truly to see what works for you. Everybody is different. Something that may work for me may not work for you, and it's really about knowing your body. You need to know what works for you, in what amounts, how much of something you could tolerate, if you need to cut something completely off, if you could use something in moderation. You need to actually know your body, know what works for you. And I know it's really, really hard, and sometimes it's mainly about, trial and error, and it gets tasking, and it sometimes is hard, and sometimes you feel to give up. But don't give up. you know Even me, I've been there. I always fall off the wagon when it comes to diet. I would go probably a week dieting, and then, probably just like 2 or 3 weeks into it, feel for something very, very fattening and go towards it. So it could be something as simple as macaroni pie, which I love. And, the key is to keep at it. It will get easier eventually. Another thing that a lot of people on this polycystic journey have decided to cut out of their life is caffeine. I personally cannot have caffeine. It upsets my stomach, but for some people, caffeine works. There claims that caffeine dehydrates the ovaries and all that jazz, and with everything, you have to do your research, know what works for you, because it may or may not affect you. You know, um, you need to. Gluten and dairy is actually the main things that people usually cut out, because for some reason, gluten and dairy makes it easier to lose weight. Cutting it out completely makes it easier to lose weight. It is beneficial with fertility and things like that. But you have to know your limits with these things, and see what works for you. But with everything, I would like to point out the most important thing. Being healthy is both bodily and mentally and physically. So you need to take care of your mental health. You need to not stress out about these things. You need to actually be stress free. You need to, I know life is filled with a lot of stress, and having polycystic itself is very stressful. I've been there. I have suffered with anxiety. Sometimes you think that a million things is wrong with you, and you're not sure which way is up. You don't know what to do with yourself because it is really difficult to actually, get a foothold. Sometimes you go to the doctor, they're telling you this, then you go to another doctor and they're telling you something totally different, and you don't know which way is up, which way is down. For me personally, what usually helps, I like to do blood work. I like to check my thyroid function, which is something very important to do. You check your androgen levels, and you get an idea of where you stand with things. I would also recommend doing some cardiac markers and make sure you have an idea what's going on there. And these little things. But the most important thing that I could tell you is just take it one day at a time. Do not stress out. I know a lot of people struggling with having babies and all those things, and putting stress on your body is not going to help you conceive. I'm a firm believer of everything has its time, and the most you could do is just prepare for it. So take the time. I would highly recommend having a food journal, which I started a couple of weeks ago as well. It is very beneficial in pointing out things that trigger your stomach or trigger certain symptoms with regard to your menstrual cycle, and things like that. It is a lifesaver. Start a food journal, start an exercise journal, and work hand in hand with them, and you will see benefits. Just stick with it. Another thing that I have been doing, because I love to do it, everybody who knows me knows I love to eat raw garlic on an empty stomach. Is my favorite thing to do. It really is. And I usually have turmeric and ginger tea at least 5 days for the week. But garlic is quite beneficial. It actually does help with the weight loss. Well, at least for me. It may not work for you, but it's actually worth trying. Now I'll actually show you all some stuff that I keep in my cupboards. I've made some changes and I would like to share them with you. So the hardest thing with polycystic is finding a diet that works for you. So first thing that I have been trying to cut gluten almost completely out of my life. So I found this. It is a gluten-free rice pasta. It is Nova. That's the brand. It tastes perfectly fine. It is not that expensive. You can get it in Extra Foods. It's usually like $13, and it has about 3 servings. So you could always make this switch. It's not an expensive switch. Another brand is Barilla. I got this in PriceMart. Now this comes in a box with spaghetti and pennies, so you could always check that out. Most important switch, olive oil. I don't use any other type of oil but olive oil, and I usually cook in a non-stick pan, so I don't have to use too much. Yeah, again, PriceMart, and you can get yourself some Silk if you are going dairy free, which I am. Silk is my favorite brand of almond milk. I usually go for unsweetened vanilla. Another thing that I've opted for, and I get this, you can get this anywhere. Quinoa. You can get it literally anywhere. It is not that expensive. I think this is like $43 in PriceMart. I do a lot of shopping in PriceMart, by the way. So then this, probiotics are a big part of your diet. So I usually use coconut yogurt. This is Chobani. It is $22 in extra foods. And I try to eat at least like two per week. And then there's this. This is also yogurt. It's Daiya. And Daiya also has dairy-free cheese. So it is actually made with tapioca starch, which is cassava. Yes. And it actually tastes pretty good. It's one of my favorite things. I don't usually make like mac and cheese and things like that, but it's nice to put on top of, you know, your pastas and things like that just for the cheese effect. It is quite tasty and it is lactose and gluten free. And this was a very I was really happy to stumble upon this in Superfarm. I thought it was yogurt. Terrell and I went for yogurt, and all we saw was organic and coconut, and I was like, yes, it's coconut yogurt. It's not. It was coconut ice cream without dairy and with agave and yeah, and dried coconut and vanilla, and it was completely organic, and it was $71 a pop, but it was totally worth the $71. Another switch that I made is coconut sugar. I'll actually show you. I ordered Anthony's brand. I get that on Amazon. Um, and agave, I use that in my juices. I make a lot of fruit juices, typical, mainly orange because I love citrus. Um, you know, and that's just some of the changes that I have made. And those little changes, you'll be very surprised. It's such a drastic effect. I can't eat regular spaghetti anymore. I love my gluten-free stuff. Um, and it is a tough journey, but you could do it. I will be sharing recipes because I do cook gluten-free and dairy-free. I just need to, write my recipes down because I usually don't follow a recipe per se. I just cook. So when I do, I will start, posting these things so that you all will have an idea of my diet. I will also start sharing my exercise routines so that you all will have an idea of what I do, if it's working, things like that. Mainly things don't work for me because I am very hardened and I love to eat like fattening stuff. And today I came from a birthday party and decided to make this video because I was feeling guilty for eating a piece of birthday cake, which I should not have, because as much as it was good, it was not good for my diet. But either way, you know um stick with it, see what works for you. Another thing that I like to do is include a lot of tea. Like I try to drink at least 3 cups a day, and you mix it up. I have a whole box of tea. I will share that with you all at another time. And my cupboards are filled with tea, different types. I use pink stock. I am not trying to conceive, let me put that out there. I am trying to manage my polycystic symptoms because I don't want to conceive knowing that I could potentially have a lot of problems with my because of polycystic. So I am trying to lose weight, and which seems counterproductive, because you're gonna lose weight to get pregnant, to gain the weight, and then have to lose it all over again. But I my focus right now is on health, and a big part of that is changing my diet and exercising. So that's all for now. I hope you all found this somewhat helpful, and look forward to those recipes because I really do cook with a lot of nice flavors. I use a lot of garlic and ginger in my cooking. So start adding these little things to your food, and you'll see a little bit of results. Don't stress out. I know it's hard, and you're just like me, you're going through a struggle, but you know what, everything will work out. You just need to remember that you're a strong woman. And if you look at it you know from another perspective, I like to think that having polycystic is driving me to lead a healthier life. And I really am thankful for that. The biggest thing that I did recently was quit smoking. I have not smoked a cigarette in 2 months, and I wasn't really an addict. It was more a vice than an addiction, because I could go days without it. As you could clearly see, I have no symptoms of withdrawals or anything like that. But you need to cut things that could cause inflammation in your body. Dairy tends to do that. It tends to raise the androgen in your body. um in some people, gluten does that. So you need to find out and figure out what works for you, and remember that you're not alone, and your struggles are just as important as everybody else's, and it's okay to talk about your feelings, and it's okay to be you. So make no apologies for being yourself. Take care, and I will see you all soon with food. And I could promise you, you're gonna love it. That's all for now. Bye.